Anger, the invisible traveler. Stories I didn't know I needed to tell. I don't have answers today, just a story from something I lived. If it feels familiar, you're not alone. For a long time, I thought anger belonged to angry people. Raised voices, slamming doors, sharp words. But over the years, I began to notice something quieter and more unsettling. Anger doesn't always announce itself. It travels silently like an invisible traveler, moving from house to house, from one heart to another. You don't hear it arrive, you only notice what it leaves behind. Silence, distance, a heaviness no one knows how to name. I've watched anger move the way wind does, across streets, across workplaces, across dinner tables. One person carries it unknowingly, another receives it unwillingly, and no one remembers where it started. Sometimes anger hides in the shadows. It doesn't roar, it flashes like lightning. One moment everything feels normal, and the next all reasonable thought is gone. Words come out that don't sound like us. Hearts jolt. Tears arrive later, and we're left wondering what just happened. Over time, I started to see anger for what it really is, a magician. Yeah, it knows the act before we do. It understands the sequence. First, there's a bruised ego, then, swelling emotion, then, despair that quietly enters the home. Anger doesn't need chaos to exist, it only needs unexamined hurt. I've seen this pattern repeat itself in ordinary places. An angered boss scorns a manager. A bruised manager scolds an employee. An irritated husband comes home silent. A dismissed wife sits, stewing with words she doesn't say. And somewhere in the middle of it all, a child says, "Mom, I'm going out to play." But anger answers first. That's when I realized something unsettling. Anger isn't cruel, it's contagious. It plays a quiet game of tag. You didn't choose it, you were just nearby. I've seen what happens next. One child ignores something another says. A fist flies before thought arrives. Tears follow. Now a mother tries to comfort a son who can't explain why he suddenly feels like hurting someone else. And no one sees it clearly because everyone is awake, but daywalking inside anger's mirage. Nindi roshni vich sutte hoye is a common saying. For a long time, I thought freedom from anger meant controlling it, suppressing it, spiritualizing it, pretending it wasn't there. But that never worked because anger doesn't want to be controlled. It wants to be seen. One day, something shifted, not dramatically, but quietly. I noticed the magician's secret trick. Anger always speaks after the ego feels threatened. It borrows my voice, but it never speaks my truth. And for the first time, I thought, I don't have to play along. I stopped asking, how do I get rid of anger? And started asking, what in me is asking to be understood? Instead of reacting, I chose introspection. Instead of emotional nightmares, I chose awareness, andarvikana. I began managing my expectations of people, of outcomes, of myself. I widened my awareness just enough to pause, to breathe, to watch, and slowly the clouds of anger began to thin. Not because I fought them, because I no longer fed them. Not because I fought them, but because I no longer fed them. That's when I understood something difficult, but freeing. Anger was never an external enemy. It was a fiery eruption of my own ego. And once I saw that clearly, there was no one else to blame. Now, when anger visits, and it still does, I don't chase it away. I sit with it. I ask what it's protecting. I thank it for trying. Then I let it pass. Anger is no longer the invisible traveler in my life. It no longer spreads sorrow from room to room. It has become a signal, a teacher, a reminder to return to acceptance, to gratitude, to presence. If this story met you somewhere quiet, let it stay there. You don't need to fix it. You don't need to explain it. Some things just need company. I'll share another story soon.